Hello everyone and welcome to SuttonsDaze and to this week's canning chat. I'm so excited to be here. So excited. So Sunday we did a canning chat. It was a makeup canning chat for last Wednesday because I was out ill. Today is the canning chat for this week. We have about 5 pages of questions and they're really, really good ones. So I hope that you stick around and enjoy them. There's even a question for all of you out there, maybe to see if you know what it is, okay? The first question is from Katrina Krakow and she asks, does vinegar actually expire? Did you know there's a vinegar institute? There's a vinegar institute, you guys. I can't believe it, right? It's just amazing. So anyway, according to the Vinegar Institute, nope, it doesn't expire. Due to the natural acidity of vinegar, it's like one of those forever foods. It just kind of keeps doing its thing in the bottle, in the jar, in the jug, whatever it is, right? That is so uber cool. And it doesn't matter if it's one that's been opened or one that's not, and it doesn't have to be refrigerated, and it's just the perfect preservation tool. So vinegar does not expire. Great question. Denise Doodles, can you water bath can on a glass top stove? She's been told no, and I'm telling you, yes, you can. You absolutely can. Now, I'm not using one of those monster big enamel canning pots, okay? But I can in stock pots. Whatever stock pot I've got, I can in. But I do not see a reason why you could not water bath can on a glass top stove. It's always best to call the manufacturer of the stove with your model number and have them answer for sure, but I think you can, so I think go ahead. Severin Koski asks, if the ring comes loose or falls off during water bath canning, what do you do? Okay, based on the information that you gave me, do not tighten down the rings anymore. When you are canning, whether it's water bath or whether it is pressure canning, you just want to go finger tight. There's a reasoning for that, and that is so that during the canning process, the heat, it helps expel any excess air that's in the jar, okay? So it's important to make sure that that is happening. During a 45-minute session, which is what you did, I don't think it's uncommon for them to become a little more loose. It's actually kind of normal. The one that you said, though, came completely undone. It took on water. That's, again, you know, not completely unusual. It does happen. It's not a preferred desired effect, obviously. But the other one you said, you just, you know, after you took it out of the canner, you screwed it on because it didn't take on water. You screwed it on a little bit more and it was good. And it pinged. So that means it's good. It just sometimes happens. It really does. You want to do finger tight. That's very important that you stay finger tight when you're putting the jars into the water bath canner. And just sometimes it happens. I wish I had a better answer than that, but sometimes it happens. S asks, say that 5 times really fast. I've looked everywhere for 4 years for a recipe. I had only once. Okay. A friend's mother came for a visit with a jar of sweet, tangy, and somehow spiced tomato, a jar of tomato and pineapple. Preserved, conserved, preserved, I don't know. I can't recall all of the details. It was not a jelly. Think it had larger chunks of fruits and rather juicy, transparent, reddish, not quite pourable consistency. She served it to us drizzled on cream cheese swirls atop grainy crackers and on East Indian naan. Okay, that sounds really good. If I recall correctly, it seems she said it was from that region. Both her daughter and I have asked everywhere. We think someone out there knows what it is. Perhaps it was a cyclical recipe from the 1986 to 90 or 1986 to 89 time period. Any clues or stabs at recipes offering, you know, would be greatly appreciated. So I have not heard of it. I will admit it sounds really good. Yeah, it sounds really good. So if any of you have heard of something like this, please drop it in the comment section below and let's try to help us out and find this missing recipe. Giggles844 asks, I canned pinto beans the no-soak method. They all sealed but one. One turned with black water and didn't seal. What caused this and are they ruined? Okay, so if it didn't seal, obviously you can't put it on your shelf. So, you know, that one's out of the thing. I'm going to assume that the black water and the not sealing are 2 different jars. The rest of the jars are fine. You know, if they sealed, they're all fine. So it's kind of a non-issue. But say it's sealed and it has that black grayish consistency inside. That's completely normal. It's completely normal. Sometimes the compound in the beans causes that. Absolutely normal. Once you open that jar and dump it into a pot, you won't even see it. It just disappears. It's amazing. So you're all good. Mary Spurlock, I have found quite a few of my jars after canning with a hairline crack in them. So small I could barely see it. All were new jars, all are sealed. I noticed it when I was washing one after opening it, so I looked at the unopened ones. They seem to be okay, but are they? Why did that happen? I have no idea why that happened. I really think that quality control at Ball is slipping hard this year with them trying to keep up with everything. So that may be the simple answer to that. If they are sealed, they're good. Okay. Would I pressure can in them again? Probably not. So you're going to want to mark those jars so that you know that you should only do water bath in them. You know, keep an eye on where they are, separate them from your other jars. Which is unfortunate. If you had caught it before you canned, you could have probably exchanged them at the store, you know, that kind of thing, gotten hold of Ball and went, hey, what's up? But now that you've, you know, already used them, I would say just use them for jelly jars, you know, that kind of thing. So good catch though. Very good catch. Leslie Casio. I'm sorry. Are there any ways that we can honeydew melon for cantaloupe? No. There really isn't. There's no approved way other than turning it into like a jam or a jelly, you know, and I'm sure that there are some out there. So I would check with the National Center for Home Food Preservation to see if they have a jam or jelly recipe for melon, and see how it goes from there. But that's it. That's all that I'm aware of. Sorry. Diamond Gardener, can you can tomato sauce? Can you can canned tomato sauce into another canned recipe? My simple answer is yes. Okay. Because it is an ingredient and it's often done. It's often done. So absolutely. If you can take that shortcut, you know, and use that as your ingredient for making your ketchup or your barbecue sauce or, you know, whatever else, you're good to go. Jody Bellamy, I just watched your video about canning meatballs. You stated you had some jars left in the refrigerator to can another time. My question is, when you can those, do you let them warm up to room temperature before canning, or just put them straight in the pot from the fridge with cold water? The latter. I put the cold jars in the cold water in the canner and start heating it from that point so that they come up together. It stretches the amount of time it takes to bring it up to pressure, right? So you might want to put a little extra water in there, but that's how I do it when I can't get to it at the same time. Great question. Tracy Spose says, back in the day when I first canned, I used a stock pot with a dish towel in the bottom to water bath my tomatoes. Old school, because that is what I had. That's what you do. It worked just fine. Now that I'm back to it and have all the equipment, I am finding out that many foods are no longer recommended for canning just because they have not been tested or retested. I have to wonder why not. With what have they been doing all this time? So we went on a little treasure hunt here, and I reached out to Darcy and I said, hey, I think you talked about this one time. And she said, no, I didn't. But she actually kind of did a little research for me. And the thing is that the last time that anything was tested was 2015. So we've got 7 years there where nothing new has been tested. Now, the funding for the National Center for Home Food Preservation is funded by the USDA, and they're not giving out any money. They have no money at the National Center for Home Food Preservation for staffing and testing and all that fun stuff. Do we think it's needed? Desperately. We desperately need to have this updated. We desperately need to have new things tested. It's very, very important, especially with the changes that have occurred in today's world. So how do you fix this, right? You get hold of your state representatives and you go on a mailing campaign and you let them know that they need to start pushing through funding for the USDA specifically to fund the National Center for Home Food Preservation so that people do not get sick and so people do not become ill due to outdated canning information. We need this resource staffed and funded completely. It's very important. Reach out to your state representatives. Hit every single one of them. Send them a letter every single month. Get your friends to send them letters every single month. Send them letters constantly. And if you want, I literally can't do it this month, you guys, but I mean, we can start a complete letter writing campaign and just push them until it gets on the budget. It needs to happen. It desperately needs to happen. There are also a couple of schools that do different testing too, but again, it's a funding issue. They don't have as much trouble as the National Center for Home Food Preservation, but they're not big enough to do all of it, right? And we need some legitimate facts. Now, I know everyone's going to tell me that our friend over at Rose Red is a scientist and all this other stuff, okay? But the fact of the matter is, nobody has done the testing to prove that those electronic pressure canners hold the pressure for years, okay? They have not run them through the ringer. They have not beat them to death. They have not made sure that they maintain the pressure and the temperature that they need for a long time. So you can buy it in January and it could be malfunctioning without you even knowing it by June. This is my issue, okay? So you definitely want funding, and you want funding to find how our food has changed over the course of the last 7 years. You want to find out if cured meats actually can be canned because they've had the funding to test and make sure that everything is getting in there the same way that it does with uncured meats. I know it's different, but you know, I'm not a scientist. I don't claim to be a scientist, and I don't have the funding to actually test it, and I wouldn't even know where to begin. So we need to push our state representatives and let them know that this is important, and it's something that we need funds sent to. We need funds absolutely allocated to the National Center for Home Food Preservation for testing home preserved foods. Okay, that's it. I'm off my soapbox. Great question. Lynn Harris, I understand chunked ham is a density issue. What if the ham is ground? Can it be safely added when canning beans? I have no idea. I have no idea. It's never even occurred to me. So I can't tell you one way or the other because I have nothing to base it off of. Nothing. So I'm sorry, I can't. Debbie Hammond, I was asked this question and could not answer it, but said you could. I hope so. Is there any reason when canning a recipe, say a chicken recipe, that calls for adding mushrooms and onions, that you couldn't add the mushrooms and onions first to the jar and then add the chicken? Curious minds want to know. Technically, there's no reason, okay? If you are canning hot-packed chicken, okay, then you could add the mushrooms and onions in there. Susan Bender, my buddy Susan Bender, actually told me that you cannot overcook a mushroom, and I haven't been able to do it yet. So onions will disintegrate. It's just the nature of the beast, but you can absolutely do it, okay? If you are raw packing, I would find it very difficult to try to do that. So, dogs. So, if you are, I would recommend, if you're going to do it, to hot pack it, okay? Dave G asks, can chicken livers and gizzards, also beef livers, be canned? The easy answer is there's no tested approved method for it. You end up, I think, number one, it's a density issue, and number two, I think you'd end up with a pate. I don't think it would be desirable at all, so it's not something I would do. Cat Chicks says, I had a weird thing happen. I made a pork green chili, raw pork plus my green chili sauce, no thickener. After I turned my canner off a few minutes, I heard a big pop. I thought maybe a jar broke, but after cool down time, I opened up my canner and a ring and a lid blew off, splattered a quarter of the jar all over the inside, but the jar was fine. It was a brand new ball jar and lid. I threw the ring away and have since reused the jar with no problems. Have you ever had this happen? All lids were finger tight. 2 were Harvest Guard and 2 were ball. And I don't know which, oh no, it was the ball that blew off. I don't know. I have not had, yeah, okay. I have not had it happen to me. But it does happen. And I think it's just one of those things that happens. Even though you think it was on their finger tight, it may have been just a little bit tighter, and so the pressure in it just kind of went, and that's normally what causes it, is extreme pressure, and it just, you know, goes crazy. So I would keep an eye on it. It's not something that should happen regularly by any stretch. I've been canning for years and have never had one blow off. I've had the bottoms break out, but I've never had a lid blow off. So I'm thinking that the pressure in the jar was too extreme, so you might have inadvertently tightened the ring. I don't know. But yeah. That's the best that I've got for you. I'm sorry. Michelle Crafty, Washington Cat Lady. You say canning cured meat, i.e. ham, etc., is not okay. However, you have a couple of videos canning corned beef. Is this not okay? No, if you watched my videos, okay, if you watched my corned beef videos, I specifically mentioned in every single one of them that this is not an approved method and why it is not approved, and that you should do your due diligence. You should do some research, and you should make a decision on what works for you and yours. That's my disclaimer right there, okay? The reason that they say not to do cured meats is because it is a density issue. Because when you cure a meat, it does become more dense. I noticed it immediately once paying attention that a cured, a corned piece of beef is much more dense raw than just raw beef. So I can understand where that is coming from. They have not had the time to actually test it. So I make some decisions based on, on my experience. And I said, okay, we're going to do this. That is not a recommendation that you do it. I'm just showing you how I do it. Okay. So you have to dig in a little deeper and you have to see if it's something that you want to do for you and yours. I love my canned corned beef. I am not recommending that you do it if you're not comfortable with it. I am recommending that you do some research. So I know I stated that in those videos. So yes, I have done it. Jody Bellamy, I just watched your video about canning meatballs. Did I already do this one? Jody, did I already do this one? Yes, I did. Jody, I'm not repeating your question, sorry. Wine and dogs. We've been living in our home for 2 years. I'm not sure of the variety of apple on the tree that's here, but it's tart. I don't have a steam canner. I do have a juicer. Can I juice the apples and can the juice? What if I don't get all the sediment strained? Then you have sediment in your apple juice, and you should be able to do that. So definitely check out the National Center for Home Food Preservation. I know that they have directions on how to do that, and you'll end up with a great product, and I think that's a great idea. And even if they're tart, they make really great apple pie jam. I'll put the link down below. Okay, so now we've got Debbie O'Greer. The first time I canned peaches, which are in my cupboard, I pushed down to sop up the water, and I know I pressed with force. The bathing water had peach juices coming out. Do I need to throw that set away? I hate to say this, but I would, okay? Because you may have forced the seal. You should never press down on them. Leave the water on top. You should never press down on them. You can just feather across a towel to pull the water off. You don't even have to do that. Just let them do their due, okay? But I would not trust those seals just based on the information that you gave me. And I'm so sorry because that's a lot of work. I'm so sorry. Okay, so now we have Kelly S. Question for those of us that are newbie canners. How do we get over the fear that we're going to kill our family? I follow the rules and I think I'm doing everything right, but I still worry that something will go horribly wrong and I'll be canning up Botox along with my peaches. Water bath canning scares the heck out of me. I like the science and reliability of pressure canning better. I get it. I like pressure canning a lot better than I like water bath canning. So the same, I've been saying the same thing for a while now, okay? It is more likely that you will injure yourself in your car than it is that you will injure yourself or anybody else with your home canning, okay? If you follow the rules, if you follow the directions, if you do what you're supposed to do according to the approved recipes, you are going to be fine. Trust the process. You got this, okay? You absolutely got this. Your attention to detail, I can tell from your question, is top notch. So you've got this. You're not going to kill anybody, okay? Just do it according to the approved process. And trust me, it's safer than getting behind the wheel of your car, okay? Anna Adams, I recently canned 18 quarts of raw packed tomatoes. All the jars were full when I put them in the canner, but the tomatoes shrank when they came out. I had about 3 inches of headspace. They all sealed. Are they okay? I mean, okay, I don't have enough information. You raw packed the tomatoes. Does that mean you didn't add any liquid? And I don't have enough information, Anna. So if you hit me up with that again, give me a little more information. Tell me the recipe that you used to can it, that I can take a closer look. My gut instinct says use them now. Don't let them sit, okay? Pull them out, turn them into a sauce or something. But 3 inches of headspace, that's a lot of loss. That's a lot of loss. So one, I need to know, you know, what process you used, if you could link me to it. And the other one, you know, if they sealed, they should be good, but I would use them sooner than later because headspace is important. So I don't know if it's siphoned. I don't know if they just cooked down. It's not like ugly chicken. Tomatoes should not be like ugly chicken. When you're canning meat and it loses like that, that's normal because the meat is cooking and the tomatoes are cooking too, but there should be a liquid in with the tomatoes. There really should. So hit me up with some more information. and we will cover this again next week, okay? Last one, Rosanna says, let's see, I canned carrots and I filled the jars to the top with water, but in the pressure canner, some of the liquid siphoned out so that the carrots are above the water, but they sealed. Are they okay to store? Yes, they are, okay? They may change, they may change a little bit of color. And when you say to the top, I'm hoping that you mean the proper proper headspace and not literally the top of the jar. Headspace is important. Pay attention to what they call for the headspace. And then, I mean, then you should be good, okay? But if they sealed, you're good. They may change color. That doesn't mean they're not good. And I believe they'll actually change back to their right color once you crack open that jar. Thank you guys for sending in more questions for the canning chat. I really do love doing these canning chats. They are so much fun. Remember, if you have a question, throw it in the comments section below, and I will get to it in an upcoming canning chat. And remember, if anybody knows that recipe with the tomatoes and the pineapple, toss it down below. Okay. Remember, until next time, if you like what we do here, please hit that like, subscribe, and share. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook. And until the next time, be safe. Bye.